Okay, so this video is a comment on a post that my friend R. Peak um, shared on Facebook. And so I'm going to play for you the audio of it's Bernie Sanders talking about the murder of Charlie Kirk. And here it is. Organize. Let me restart it here. And take part in public life without fear. I gotta try to figure out how to get it back to the beginning. That they might be killed, injured, or humiliated for expressing their political views. Only millions of people in our own country. Dang on it. But as you all know, what happened. I'm having trouble here. Is about and what democracy is about. You have a point of view, that's great. I have a point of view that is different than yours. That's great. Let's argue it out. We make out know what happens in America. Argue it out. We made murder yesterday. Charlie Kirk, someone who I strongly disagreed with on almost every issue, but who was clearly a very smart and effective communicator and organizer, and someone unafraid to get out into the world and engage the public. My condolences go out to his wife and his family. A free and democratic society, which is what America is supposed to be about, depends upon the basic premise that people can speak out, organize, and take part in public life without fear, without worrying that they might be killed, injured, or humiliated for expressing their political. All right. So, Richard, I seen your post where you posted Bernie Sanders talking about Charlie Kirk, and I just want to say this up front. I know that you and I have a difference of opinion when it comes to politics. I'm not going to, the point is, I don't want to argue with you on whether what your beliefs are right or wrong. That's not, I don't want to change what you believe. Like, I doubt that, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I doubt that you or anyone else could ever convince me to change my way of thinking. So, let me give you some history here. Back in about, I guess it would have been, before I say this, let me do some math here real fast. Okay, I was born in 1969. So, in 1988, 79 I was 10, 89 I would have been 20, so yeah, 88, I was 19 years old. My mom and my dad, they were, when I was born, up until I was about 3, that's about how long their marriage lasted. Then
they just didn't get along. They went their ways. So it wasn't until I was 19 years old I got to meet my dad, and we sat up many nights talking, getting to know one another. And he was my dad was a truck driver, and he would talk hours and hours and hours about how to drive a truck. Or we spent a lot of time talking about working on cars, working on mechanical stuff. And so I'm just getting to know my dad, and so as it pertains to mechanics, auto mechanics, my grandfather on my mom's side of the family that I was raised up around, he was a truck driver. I had uncles on my mom's side of the family that were truck drivers. Some of them still are. And so I really didn't feel a need to be talked to about truck driving or auto mechanics, because my family on my mom's side, they already educated me there. And so one day my dad come in for the weekend. He had been driving all week, and he got home, and we were sitting at the dinner table, and he starts telling me, "You gotta check out this feller that I heard on the radio." And keep in mind, I was 19 years old. At that time I had zero interest in politics. Zero. If it wasn't for the fact that I was in the house just a little while ago talking with my wife about this stuff, I couldn't have even told you who the president was in 1988. We figured it out, though. No. I do know who the president was back then, now, but at the time, I didn't know. I didn't care. I was not even interested in it. Absolutely zero. So, getting back to my story, my dad tells me, "You gotta check out this guy that I heard on the radio." And I'll just go and tell you, he was telling me about Rush Limbaugh. Now, I know you probably have no cares, or you probably have nothing positive to say about Rush. We can agree to disagree on Rush Limbaugh, but I'm not going to argue with you because you don't like the guy, and that's your choice. So being that I wanted to have something more than auto mechanics and trucks to talk to my dad about. So when I'm out driving around in my car back at 19 years old, what my interest was listening to rock and roll and looking to find an attractive girlfriend. Those were my goals at 19. And so I would be out riding around in my car by myself, listening to some Creedence Clearwater Revival, and be out heel hopping, and then I just get a thought in my head, oh, Dad said need to check out this guy. So I'd flip the radio over on the AM dial, and I'd flip through there, because he didn't tell me what station to find him on. I was just flipping through the radio, and I'd run on to him. I'd listen to him for 10 or 15 minutes, and then go back to the rock and roll, go on, do my thing. And several days later, weeks later, whatever, I'd think about it again. I'd flip back over on the AM, and I'd go find Rush and listen to him some more. And then it got to the point where, like, I took up a job driving, and so I don't like digging on the radio trying to find, because the rock and roll stations, after a while, they faded out. And I hate digging on the radio. Even today, I don't like digging on the radio trying to find music, or, well, I don't listen to a lot of rock, or I don't listen to rock and roll anymore. I don't have nothing against it, I just don't listen to it. My point is, being that I was on the road for, hours and hours and hours, I wanted to listen to something. I wanted to hear a radio station that I didn't have to change every 50 miles or 75 miles or, whatever. So, I just started, the stations that carried Rush Limbaugh, I could listen to them stations for hundreds of miles at a time. And so with that said, Bernie Sanders was not he wasn't a person that I wanted. I didn't want to hear him, right? Like, I don't know, it's just something about his voice back then. I've matured a bit. We're not at 19 anymore. This is in my 20s and in my 30s. I wasn't a big fan of Bernie Sanders or any. I consider myself to be a conservative Republican, and so anyways, when you posted Bernie Sanders on Facebook a little while ago, I'm like, I clicked play on it, or it automatically plays. So I sit there and I listen to what he had to say, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that is interesting as all get out. For the first time in all the years that I've known about Bernie Sanders, for the very first time, I agree with the man on what he said. Okay? I totally agree with what he said. I wanted to give you a little background of, you know, my history on, you know, on well, like, where I got my knowledge. And you can say what you want about, you know, I've heard it all. I know that there's a lot of people that do not like Rush, did not like Rush, but we'll just leave it at that. I just wanted to make a video where you could hear me expressing myself. You know, if I would have tried to type all this up as a comment for you, you know, yeah, you could read it, and to be honest with you, you'd probably be like, what in the world is he trying to say there? Can't hardly make out what he's writing there, because probably be some mistakes in my spelling. You know, the having to worry about where to put the period and the exclamation points and all that stuff. You know, this way you're hearing my emotions. You're hearing what I'm saying the way I mean it to be said. You know, if I would have typed in a comment that, you know, I don't like Democrats, you know, I don't agree with the Democrats and all that, you know, to read it, you would, unless you heard me saying it here, you don't know how I'm expressing it. You know, when somebody types something on there on a comment, there's no feeling. You can't get the emotions out of just words that you're reading on a comment. This way, you know, I appreciate that you know, you stand where you do. We all don't agree on everything. Like I was telling my wife, I got to know you by watching your videos, because we had some commonality, which was you like hot rods, I like hot rods. And I'll tell you right now, I really like that Studebaker and that rat rod. Those are really cool. But I do my best, you know, when I watch your videos. I know that you're a Democrat, but I'm not going to aim my comments at belittling you because you're a Democrat. You know, and I just wanted to make this video basically to say that for the first time I'm 56 years old. I was 19 when I started listening to Rush Limbaugh, and for the first time in my life, I heard something from Bernie Sanders that I completely, 100% agree with the man. And you know, it's not because to be honest with you, it's not because of anything that I did. It's more it's 100% what God did. You know, several years, I say several, and when I say several, I don't mean like decades ago. I mean just maybe in the last 5-6 years, yeah, probably more like 5. In the last 5 years, me and my wife, we started going to church. As a matter of fact, I can narrow this down a little bit more to when Rush Limbaugh died of cancer. I didn't want to hear any other person on the radio trying to be Rush Limbaugh. I didn't want that. So I just quit listening to talk radio altogether. At least political or news talk. I 100% cut it out. I didn't want to hear it no more. And I quit following politics for several years. I wasn't. Well, when Rush Limbaugh passed away, I started looking. I had to find something else to listen to, and because I tried going back to rock and roll, and that didn't work very long. So I'm like, wait a minute, I heard something about these things called podcasts. I don't know what a podcast is, but I'm going to dig into it, find out. And so I opened up Google Podcasts, and I'm scrolling. No, I think it was Google Podcasts. It may not have been. It might have been iHeartRadio. I can't recall exactly 100%. But at any rate, I was searching through the available podcasts, and I was looking to see if there was anything that would grab my attention. And so I run across this podcast called Unashamed with Phil Robertson. And I'm like, Phil Robertson, that's the Duck Dynasty guy. And so I stopped. I opened up I started listening to the podcast, and they had several of them out at the time, so I went back to I found their very first one, started at the beginning, and I listened to them. I'm on the road, sitting in the truck. I'm not going nowhere other than down the road. Other than I could be talking on the phone with somebody. No, I couldn't have been actually, because the company I worked for, at the time, we had a no phone policy, which means when we got in the truck to drive, our phone was to be turned off and stowed into a bag. We had an overnight bag, and put the phone in our bag and put the bag on the farthest side of the truck away from us. That way it's completely out of reach. And which, mind you, I took my phone, because I'm using my phone to listen to these podcasts, so I put it in a phone mounted on the windshield on the far side of the truck, and I had it linked up to a Bluetooth FM transmitter, so I could hear from my phone over the radio of the truck. And I spent many hours listening to the Unashamed podcast. And Phil had a unique way of he would preach from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And anyways, on the let's go up here. Up here where we got some peace, quiet. Anyway, the more I listen to the Unashamed podcast, on one of their episodes, they started talking about their church that they attend, and now we're into the COVID stuff, and because of COVID, a lot of churches were live streaming. So I got on, and back then they had Facebook Live. You could watch Facebook Live on TV. They don't have that feature anymore. If you're watching a YouTube Live or a Facebook Live, you have to be on your computer or your phone. Anyways, I started watching the live stream of the Robertsons church they attended, and I tried to get my wife to sit down and watch with me, and my wife wasn't for she didn't like watching church. She felt like we needed to be in church instead of watching it from home. So we watched 2 or 3 Sunday services of their church, and then my wife said, we're going to have to find a church we can actually go to. And then it just so happens that that one of my relatives called and said, hey, our church is having a picnic today, and you guys are invited. Bring something. Bring your beverages and bring a dish as a pitch-in. And so we went. Figured, well, this is a non-formal it's a non-formal church function, and so we went there. and had a good time. We was there for a couple hours. The pastor of the church, he come over. He sat with me the entire time that I was at that picnic. He was telling me, he's asking questions about myself and my wife and different things, and telling us about the church and everything. And then, so that was on a Saturday, and then I think it was about 2-3 weeks later, we went on a Sunday, and we went on the next Sunday, the next Sunday, the next, and so on and so on. And then it progressed into going on Sundays to going on Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night, and when I'm driving my truck now, instead of listening to rock and roll or politics, I'm listening to, I got a Bible app on my phone. Sometimes I'll open up the Bible app and I just listen to the Bible. And other times, it's I found this app where there's a radio station over in Columbus, Ohio. That's nearly 100 miles from where we're standing right now, this camera and me. And but I found the app. I can listen to that station. It has guys like Greg Laurie, a bunch of different pastors that on there. They all get like a little half-hour segment, and I listen to that a lot. And then when I'm not in the mood to listen to that stuff, I do have YouTube music on my phone, and I got a amazing, at least in my opinion, it's amazing playlist. I got several of them. I got the main one that I enjoy listening to is a Crowder. It's nothing but Crowder on the whole playlist, and but that's what I do. And I apologize for this being such a long video, but I just wanted to comment about that Bernie Sanders post you made, and I figured this was the best way to get the best view of my point, or get what I'm trying to say. And I hope you understand. And I look forward to watching your next video, buddy. You have a blessed night, and or day, but whenever it is that you watch this, whenever I get it uploaded and all that. But maybe one of these days I'll get down there. It seems like back when I first told you I would try to come down and visit you, it was something every time got in the way. But one of these days, buddy, you might see that old, matter of fact, here, we'll just do it this way. You might just see that old black Ranger right there rolling up your driveway one day. So don't be surprised. If it ain't the Ranger, we got a little Chevy Cruze back there. Might roll up in it. Just never know. Or it could be something totally different. My son's got a newer vehicle, a lot newer than my truck, or even the car that we have. Maybe I could convince him, let me use his car. But Anyway, just don't be surprised if you see me roll up. And I'll catch you later, buddy.